There was a time when Japan built cars that did more than perform. They spoke to you. Machines born from passion, tuned for purity, and remembered long after their engines went silent. But not every legend got the ending it deserved. Some were cut short too early, victims of economics, emissions rules, and changing time. Cars that could have ruled the roads much longer if their creators had not pulled the plug. Toyota Supra A80, 1993 to 2002. The A80 Supra wasn't just fast, it was a cultural icon. Its 2JZ GTE inline-6 became legendary for one thing: indestructible power. Stock, it made 276 horsepower, but tuners knew it could handle 4-digit numbers without breaking a sweat. It was Japan's gift to the tuning world, a car that felt built for the future. So why kill it? Blame the early 2000s. Sports cars weren't selling, emission standards tightened, and Toyota was pivoting toward hybrids and efficiency. The Supra's price tag and fuel thirst no longer fit the company's image. Production quietly stopped. No farewell, no celebration, just silence. For years, Toyota refused to bring it back, leaving fans clinging to used models and memories. It wasn't until 2019 that the nameplate returned, but it wasn't the same. The new Supra, co-developed with BMW, split opinions. Some loved the performance, others said it lacked the soul of the original. The truth? The A80 didn't die because it was bad. It died because it was too good for the times. It represented freedom, tuning culture, and raw Japanese engineering. All the things the early 2000s left behind. And for many enthusiasts, the original Supra isn't just a car that was discontinued. It's a reminder of when Japan dared to dream bigger than anyone else. 12. Mitsubishi Lancer 1600 GSR A70. It looked like a simple little 1970s sedan. Boxy, friendly, almost harmless. The kind of car you'd see parked outside a grocery store, not tearing through some of the harshest rally stages on the planet. But hidden under that modest shell was a rally assassin. The Lancer 1600 GSR packed a high-revving 1.6-liter inline-4, producing around 110 horsepower, about 100 pound-feet of torque, and thanks to its feather-light weight, tight gearing, and rear-wheel drive, it punched way above its class. On paper, it hit 60 miles per hour in roughly 9.5 seconds. But the real story wasn't 0 to 60. It was how brutally fast and unshakable it was over dirt, rocks, and desert. This quiet little sedan shocked the world by dominating the East African Safari Rally, a race so brutal it destroyed entire fields of competitors. Its repeated success helped trigger stricter homologation demands and tougher emission standards, and over time, many versions of the GSR became difficult, or outright illegal, to import into certain markets without heavy modification. It had flaws. It was loud, raw, and far from comfortable. But to those who knew its true identity, the 1600 GSR wasn't a humble commuter. It was a forbidden rally legend, a tiny giant killer Japan built long before anyone realized it was rewriting the rules. 10. 1991 Toyota Corolla Touring Wagon GT. You wouldn't expect a car that looks like it belongs in a high school parking lot to keep up with sportier rivals, but that's where this unassuming wagon earns its stripes. Now, you might think we're going to start with dialing things down. Think again. This plain-faced box from the early 90s was anything but slow, at least in the right trim. Beneath the Corolla Touring Wagon's basic silhouette, Toyota quietly slipped in the legendary 4AGE engine, a naturally aspirated 1.6-liter twin-cam inline-4, pushing out 130 horsepower and around 105 pound-feet of torque. That might not scream power today, but with a curb weight of under 2,400 pounds and a close ratio 5-speed manual, it moved with a sharpness that surprised anything behind it at a stoplight. 0 to 60, just under 8.5 seconds. For a grocery getter in 1991, that was quick. And then there was that engine. The 4AGE wasn't just any motor. It was the same high-revving heart that powered the AE86, with roots tracing back to Toyota's partnership with Yamaha. It loved to be pushed. It made all the right noises, and in wagon form, it confused everyone. No badges gave it away, no spoilers, no flared arches, just clean, forgettable lines and a license plate your uncle might have had. Of course, it wasn't perfect. It lacked low-end grunt. The ride leaned towards soft, and most buyers didn't even realize what they were getting. That's why they've all but disappeared now. quietly fading into junkyards or getting stripped for their engines. But in its prime, it was a family hauler that could corner like a hatch and spook unsuspecting coupes at traffic lights. And that's the key here. It didn't look fast. It wasn't meant to. But if you knew what you were looking at, you smiled. The next one? Even less noticeable. But once the boost kicks in, it's a different story. 9. 1996 Nissan Avenir Salut GT Turbo. If you glanced at it parked outside a supermarket, you'd think someone left their dad's old company car running. But this unremarkable wagon was hiding one of Nissan's most iconic power plants, and it knew how to use it. The 1996 Nissan Avenir Salut GT Turbo didn't look like much. No aggressive body kit, no hood scoop, no racing stripes, just a boxy frame and a modest grille. But under that anonymous exterior sat the SR20 DET, a 2-liter turbocharged inline-4 found in legends like the Silvia and Pulsar GTI-R. With 205 horsepower and 206 pound-feet of torque, this family wagon could hit 0 to 60 in just under 7 seconds, faster than most 90s sports cars. Add in Nissan's Atessa all-wheel drive system on select models, and the Avenir was more than just quick in a straight line. It gripped like a rally car in disguise. Rain, corners, gravel. This thing held its own like it had something to prove. And yet, not a single soul at the light would suspect a thing. What made it even sneakier? The interior. No race seats, no flashy dials, just clean, practical design and enough space in the back for strollers or spare tires. It was a car built for the school run, but tuned for back-road blitzes. Blink and you'd miss it, but push the throttle and it'd remind even the cockiest coupe why sleepers are dangerous. Next up, the slowest-looking car on the list, a literal postal van that some people tuned to outrun Evos. 8. 2002 Toyota Probox GT. It's hard to look more boring than this. A flat-nosed rectangle on wheels, the 2002 Toyota Probox was designed with one thing in mind: function over form. Most people saw it as a delivery van or a taxi, and they weren't wrong. But what they didn't see was what some tuners in Japan turned it into. While the factory Probox came with modest engines like the 1NZ FE 1.5-liter, enthusiasts quickly saw its potential. Its lightweight chassis, rear-wheel drive layout in some trims, and massive engine bay made it perfect for sleeper builds. In Tokyo street scenes, some Proboxes were secretly packing 3S GTE turbo engines, 2 ZZ GE Screamers, and even full-blown GT4 drivetrains. Zero visual cues, no badges, just a dented panel van with 300 horsepower under the hood. Even in stock GT trims, the Probox moved better than you'd expect, especially when fitted with manual transmissions and mild suspension upgrades. But the real magic came from how nobody ever suspected it. One moment, it's pacing a K car. The next, it's tailgating a WRX. It was the ultimate you-had-to-know kind of car. Pure stealth weapon. And if you're into sleepers like this, cars that punch way above their looks, subscribe for more forgotten speed legends that deserve way more attention. Toyota MR2, SW20, 1989 to 1999. The Toyota MR2 was Japan's mid-engine dream. Small, agile, and beautifully balanced. It made ordinary drivers feel like racers without draining a wallet, but like many legends, it couldn't outrun changing times. Debuting in the late 80s, it did things differently. Mid-engine, rear-wheel drive, and razor-sharp responses. Traits usually reserved for Ferraris, not Toyotas. The second-gen SW20, 1989, looked outright exotic, and with a turbocharged 2-liter making up to 245 horsepower, it could do 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds. Not bad for a cheap sports car. That brilliance had a sting. The same layout that made it magical also made it unforgiving, earning the Snap Oversteer Special nickname. Insurance climbed, accidents followed, and Toyota softened later models. Safer, but less thrilling. By the late 90s, emissions tightened, sports car sales slumped, and Toyota pivoted to safer, more profitable cars. The MR2 faded, replaced by crossovers and hybrids. The final MR2 Spider tried to rekindle the spark, but the magic wasn't the same. Today, the MR2 feels like a forgotten masterpiece. Ferrari-like dynamics at a fraction of the price. Killed quietly, remembered loudly, it remains a bittersweet reminder of what driving used to feel like. Isuzu Bellet 1600 GT GTR. It looked like a small, polite 1970s coupe. Clean lines, compact body, nothing that screamed danger. The kind of car you'd expect a school teacher to drive, not a street weapon hiding under the radar. But the Isuzu Bellet 1600 GTR was Japan's first true GTR, before the Skyline stole the spotlight. Under its lightweight shell lived a high-revving 1.6-liter inline-4, pushing 130 horsepower, 110 pound-feet of torque, and launching to 60 miles per hour in roughly 8.7 seconds. Shockingly quick for its era. Rear-wheel drive, a tight-ratio gearbox, and a suspension tuned directly from its racing program made it corner like a much bigger machine. Every turn felt sharp, deliberate, almost mischievous, and that's where problems began. Emissions laws of the mid-70s hit hard, and the GTR's twin-carb, high-compression engine couldn't meet tightening global standards. Import hurdles, safety restrictions, and homologation changes eventually made it impossible to bring into many countries, pushing this early JDM legend into obscurity. Today, the Bellet GTR stands as a forbidden pioneer, a forgotten giant slayer that proved Japan could build world-class performance long before anyone was paying attention. If you're enjoying these forgotten JDM outlaws, hit like and drop a comment. It helps more people discover the legends the world tried to erase. Subaru WRX STI, EJ25 era, 2004 to 2021. The Subaru WRX STI was the rally-bred hero of the streets, loud, raw, and unapologetically fast. Born from WRC grit, it earned its name in mud, snow, and gravel, with a 2.5-liter turbo boxer, all-wheel drive, and that towering wing turning errands into sprints. It wasn't refined, it was electric, a car that could shame supercars on a mountain road and still haul groceries. But the world shifted. Emissions tightened, competitors' turbos got cleaner and smarter, and the aging EJ25, rough idle, big thirst, started to feel ancient. Subaru tweaked, but never transformed it enough to match its rising price. Then, the gut punch. When the next-gen WRX landed in 2022, there was no STI, not even a hybrid. Officially, it didn't fit future regulations. Unofficially, the old-school rally monster didn't fit a market chasing EVs and crossovers. The STI didn't just end, it vanished. No farewell, no special, just silence. That stung, because it stood for something pure, the raw bond between driver and machine. Now, spotting an STI feels like seeing a relic from a better time. Loud, brash, wonderfully alive. Subaru moved on. The fans? They're still waiting for that boxer burble to come back. Toyota Celica GT4 ST205. The Celica GT4 was Toyota's rally-bred monster, built to dominate dirt, tarmac, and snow. But politics and shifting markets cut it down early. At its peak in the late 80s and 90s, especially as the ST205, it packed a turbo 2.0-liter 3S GTE, full-time all-wheel drive, and a lightweight body, delivering around 250 horsepower to take on Evos and Imprezas with real bite. It wasn't just quick, it was a tech showcase. Anti-lag, advanced suspension, even intercooler water spray. Then, 1995 hit. Toyota was caught using a restrictor bypass in the WRC, called the most ingenious cheating device ever seen, leading to a ban that shattered the GT4's image. Sales fell, the program died, and Celica drifted into front-wheel drive coupes with none of the rally soul. By 2006, the nameplate was gone. The GT4 deserved better. It proved Toyota could build a hardcore driver's car when it chose to. Years later, the GR Yaris rekindled that fire. But the Celica GT4 remains the one that got away, a hero undone by brilliance and scandal. Toyota Crown MS75 2.8. It looked like a luxury cruiser from the 1970s. Big chrome, long body, soft lines. Nothing about it suggested speed. It seemed built for comfort, not for bending rules. But the Toyota Crown MS75 2.8 carried a surprisingly strong engine for its class, a 2.8-liter inline-six producing around 145 horsepower and 150 pound-feet of torque. It reached 0 to 60 miles per hour in roughly 11 seconds, and top speed was around 118 miles per hour. For a heavy luxury sedan of its era, those numbers were quietly impressive. Its smooth, straight-six, rear-wheel drive layout and refined suspension made it feel stable at high speeds, far more confident than its formal looks suggested. It wasn't a sports car. It was a sleeper wrapped in luxury, a car that could outrun rivals while keeping its passengers in silence. But tightening emissions regulations in the late 70s created problems. The carbureted 2.8-liter engine struggled to meet new standards in several countries, and many markets began rejecting imports of this specific Crown generation. Safety requirements changed too, leaving the MS-75 unable to meet updated crash structures without major redesigns. It wasn't perfect. Fuel consumption was high, handling felt soft, and parts weren't cheap. But the Crown MS-75 2.8 offered smooth, hidden performance few expected. Today, in many regions, it sits on restricted or banned import lists, a forgotten luxury sleeper from Japan's early performance era. 7. Suzuki Cara, 1993 to 1995. This was a supercar idea shrunk to the size of a K car. The Suzuki Cara looked like something pulled straight from a concept studio. Gull-wing doors, a wedge-shaped body, and proportions that felt completely wrong. Public roads. Most people never realized it existed, and those who did often thought it was a one-off prototype. Mounted behind the driver was a 657cc turbocharged inline-3, producing 64 horsepower and about 63 pound-feet of torque, the maximum allowed under K regulations. On paper, those numbers sounded harmless. In reality, the Cara's mid-engine, rear-wheel drive layout and ultra-lightweight body transformed modest power into a genuinely intense driving experience. On the road, the Cara felt raw and unforgiving. Steering was immediate, throttle response sharp, and every input mattered. There were no electronic aids, no safety nets, and very little margin for error. Push too hard, and the car punished mistakes instantly. It wasn't comfortable, practical, or forgiving. It was pure, scaled-down performance. The Cara could hit 0 to 60 miles per hour in around 7 seconds, with a top speed near 87 miles per hour, limited more by regulations than ability. What erased the Suzuki Cara wasn't engineering failure, it was ambition. Too extreme, too expensive, and too uncompromising for its market, it vanished quietly. Today, it stands as one of Japan's strangest forgotten experiments, a gull-wing, mid-engine K car that history almost pretended never happened. 11. Nissan 300ZX Z32, 1989 to 2000. The 300ZX was a masterpiece that came too soon, a car so advanced for its time that it priced itself out of existence. It was Nissan's attempt to build a supercar for the streets, and for a while, it worked. When it launched in 1989, the Z32 was a revolution. Sleek, futuristic, and packed with technology, it looked like something from the next decade. Under the hood sat a twin-turbo 3-liter V6 producing 300 horsepower, a big deal back then. It could hit 60 miles per hour in under 6 seconds and handle corners like a dream thanks to 4-wheel steering and near-perfect balance. But all that performance came at a cost, literally. The 300ZX was expensive to build, complex to maintain, and heavy compared to earlier Z cars. As the 90s wore on, the yen rose, and Japan's economy slowed down. Sales plummeted, and by 2000, Nissan quietly killed it off. It wasn't just the end of a model, it was the end of an era. The Z once stood for affordable performance, but the 300ZX had become too ambitious for its own good. Today, enthusiasts still love it for its design and performance, but finding a clean one is getting harder every year. The 300ZX died because it was too good, too advanced for a market that wasn't ready, and in a strange way, that's what makes it unforgettable. 10. Mazda RX-7, 1978 to 2002. The Mazda RX-7 was more than a car. It was a statement. A sleek, lightweight coupe powered by a rotary that revved higher and sang louder than almost anything on the road, proving Mazda's belief in doing things differently. The original 1978 car chased balance, front engine, rear drive, near perfect weight distribution. But the real star was the Wankel rotary. No pistons, just spinning rotors delivering eerily smooth, high-rev power. Then came the FD in the 90s. The RX-7 everyone remembers. Light, beautiful, and armed with a twin-turbo 13B REW, making around 276 horsepower, it paired with sub-1300 kilograms to feel explosive, carving corners with Porsche rivaling, precision, and a turbo kick like pure adrenaline. The magic had a price. Rotaries love revs, but hate neglect, sipping fuel and oil and punishing poor maintenance. As emissions tightened and reliability mattered more, keeping the RX-7 alive made less sense. By 2002, it was gone, ended by the quirks that made it special. The RX-8 tried to carry the flame, but never the same. The RX-7 defined an era, light, pure, and perfectly flawed, and it left with one of the most distinctive engine notes ever. Honda Civic RS, 1975. The 1975 Honda Civic RS looked like any other small hatchback from the era, compact, cheerful, almost harmless. Yet this was Honda's first attempt at making a truly sporty road car, and beneath its friendly shape was a surprising amount of attitude. Honda tuned the RS with far more intent than its size suggested. Its 1.2-liter inline-4 produced around 75 horsepower and 67 pound-feet of torque. It reached 0 to 60 miles per hour in roughly 13.5 seconds, and top speed was around 95 miles per hour. Those numbers seem modest now, but in a featherweight body, the RS felt responsive and playful, offering a driving experience far livelier than its competition. What made the RS special wasn't straight line performance, it was the handling. Sharper steering, revised suspension, and short gearing made it eager through corners, almost daring the driver to push harder. It was one of the earliest examples of Honda's philosophy: light, balanced, fun. But as emissions laws tightened in the mid-70s, Honda's high-revving, sporty carb setup became a problem. Certain markets rejected the RS outright due to compliance issues, and others imposed restrictions that made importing early Civic RS models difficult or illegal without heavy modification. Its flaws were simple: basic interiors, limited power, and thin body panels that didn't age well. But none of that stopped the RS from becoming a cult favorite among enthusiasts who recognized its significance. Today, the 1975 Civic RS remains a rare sight, often restricted by age-related emissions and safety standards. A tiny hatchback that showed the world Honda's performance DNA long before VTEC ever arrived. Mazda RX-7 FD3S, 1992 to 2002. The Mazda RX-7 FD was a masterpiece, sleek, light, and built around the 13B RAW twin-rotor rotary. It wasn't about brute power, it was about balance, 50-50 weight distribution, razor-sharp handling, and a driving feel so pure it felt alive in your hands. It made around 276 horsepower, but the magic was delivery. Sequential twin turbos gave a smooth, rising surge to redline, and the rotary didn't rumble, it screamed, high-pitched and otherworldly. On a mountain road, few cars could keep up. Light on its feet and beautifully tuned, it's still hailed as one of the best handling cars ever made. But brilliance came with a cost. The 13B was temperamental. It loved revs and demanded strict maintenance, fuel, and oil. Neglect invited apex seal failures and blown turbos. Add tightening emissions and rising costs, and Mazda's dream became unsustainable. By 2002, it was gone. The RX-8 tried to carry the torch, but never matched the magic. The RX-7 wasn't just a car, it was a feeling, a rare bond between human and machine. It didn't die because it failed. It died because the world didn't understand it. And speaking of misunderstood legends, the next car was born from Nissan's racing heritage, built to dominate, but crushed by its own company. Nissan Violet 710 SSS. Most people walked right past the Nissan Violet 710 SSS without a second glance. Nothing about its narrow body or simple grille suggested this little sedan was about to become one of the toughest machines Japan ever sent into battle. Beneath that plain exterior, the SSS hid a surprisingly capable powertrain. Its 1.8-liter inline-4 produced around 115 horsepower and 110 pound-feet of torque. It reached 0 to 60 miles per hour in roughly 11.2 seconds, and top speed was around 112 miles per hour. Those numbers looked ordinary on paper, but on rough terrain, they became something far more dangerous. What set the Violet apart wasn't brute force, it was endurance. On the infamous East African Safari Rally, where heat, dust, rocks, and wildlife destroyed cars far stronger on paper, the Violet refused to die. Lightweight, Yet, balanced and almost unbreakable, it finished races that others abandoned halfway through. But rising emissions laws, new homologation demands, and shifting safety standards in the mid-70s eventually worked against it. Several versions of the SSS became restricted or outright banned from import in multiple markets, quietly transforming this once accessible sedan into a rare outlaw. Today, the 710 SSS lives on as a survivor's car, humble on the outside, relentless underneath. A forgotten warrior from the 70s that earned its illegal status not through flash, but through sheer resilience. 6. 1998 Mitsubishi Legnum STR. If you ever saw one parked at a grocery store, chances are you walked right past it without a second glance. No vents, no scoops, no flared fenders or obnoxious badges. Just a long, low wagon with a calm, grown-up demeanor. But the 1998 Mitsubishi Legnum STR was more than just a practical hauler. It was a quiet performance sleeper built to move fast while looking slow. Most enthusiasts know the Legnum for its famous VR4 variant, the aggressive all-wheel drive twin-turbo monster often called a wagon version of the Evo. But this isn't that car. The STR was the understated middle child, packing a 6A13 2.5-liter DOHC V6 with no turbochargers and no visual drama. On paper, it made a modest 180 horsepower, sent to the front wheels, or optionally to all four, through Mitsubishi's AWD system. That doesn't sound like much, until you realize this wagon could still do 0 to 60 in about 8 seconds, which, for the late 90s, was nothing to laugh at, especially from something this subtle. With its smooth shifting auto, or rare 5-speed manual, the STR delivered surprisingly responsive power delivery, aided by a torque curve that made it feel far more eager than the numbers suggest. Where the Legnum really shined, though, was in its handling. Even in STR trim, it featured a multi-link suspension setup, 4-wheel disc brakes, and a chassis that felt balanced and composed at speed. It was tight in corners, planted on the highway, and handled more like a sports sedan than a family wagon, yet visually, pure sleeper. No one would suspect this calm, executive-looking estate could keep up with sportier sedans or leave smaller turbocharged cars in the rear view. And that's what makes it special. A car that didn't ask for attention, but quietly earned respect from those who knew. But if you thought this was subtle, wait till you meet the next wagon. It's got wood grain trim, a roof rack, and the soul of a boxer engine ready to embarrass anything in its lanes. 5. Toyota Origin, 2000 to 2001. This car looked like it time-traveled by mistake. The Toyota Origin was built as a quiet tribute to Toyota's first-ever passenger car, wrapped in retro styling that felt completely out of place in the early 2000s. Chrome details, upright proportions, and classic lines made it look decades older than it really was, and that confusion kept it invisible. Under the hood sat a 3.0-liter inline-6 2JZ-GE, producing around 215 horsepower and 220 pound-feet of torque. Yes, a real 2JZ, hidden beneath a body that looked anything but sporty. Power went to the rear wheels, delivering smooth, effortless acceleration rather than drama. On the road, the Origin felt refined and surprisingly strong. It wasn't built for aggression, but the engine gave it confident highway pull and relaxed authority. Most drivers never expected real performance from something that looked this traditional, and that's exactly why it worked. The Toyota Origin could reach 0 to 60 miles per hour in around 7 seconds, with a top speed near 140 miles per hour. Only 1,073 units were ever built. What erased the Toyota Origin wasn't failure, it was disbelief. A retro luxury sedan with a legendary engine, built in tiny numbers and quietly forgotten by almost everyone. Mitsubishi 3000 GT, 1990 to 2000. The Mitsubishi 3000 GT, or GTO in Japan, was a rolling showcase of early 90s technology, an over-engineered grand tourer built to compete with the world's best. It featured a twin-turbo V6, full-time all-wheel drive, 4-wheel steering, and even active aerodynamics with pop-up headlights. It was a technological marvel. The flagship VR4 model was a true powerhouse. Its 3-liter twin-turbo V6 pushed 300 horsepower in early models, climbing to 320 horsepower later, making it seriously quick in a straight line. But the real story was the tech. Adjustable adjustable exhaust, active suspension, and an active rear spoiler, all standard. It was a statement that Mitsubishi could build a futuristic, world-class super coupe. But that complexity was its downfall. All that high-tech gear made the car heavy, expensive to build, and brutally difficult to maintain. A simple repair often required specialized knowledge. As the decade ended, performance trends shifted toward lighter, simpler cars, and stricter safety standards meant costly redesigns. Mitsubishi's focus, too, narrowed to the successful Lancer Evo. It was a sad end for a car that dared to be different. The 3000 GT died, not because it lacked performance, but because it had too much ambition and too many parts. Today, clean VR4s are highly sought after by collectors who appreciate the sheer engineering audacity that created one of the most complex yet unforgettable JDM icons of the era. Next up is another Nissan that took things even further, a car that dominated the streets and earned a nickname that still gives chills. Honda Prelude, first gen, 1978. The first gen Honda Prelude didn't look intimidating at all. Small, neat, almost delicate. More of a stylish city cruiser than a performance threat. But the moment someone actually drove it, the Prelude revealed a personality nobody expected from a late 70s commuter coupe. Honda engineered it with surprising precision for its time. Its 1.8-liter inline-4 produced around 90 horsepower and 100 pound-feet of torque. It reached 0 to 60 miles per hour in roughly 12.5 seconds, and top speed was around 102 miles per hour. Not headline numbers, yet paired with its lightweight and sharp steering, the Prelude felt far more eager than its spec sheet suggested. Independent suspension at all four corners gave it an agility rare in affordable Japanese cars of the era. It wasn't built to dominate straights. It was built to flow through corners, smooth and predictable, almost sporty despite its polite appearance. But emissions regulations changed fast at the end of the 1970s. The Prelude's carbureted setups and early emissions equipment struggled to match new requirements, and several regions placed restrictions or outright blocked certain configurations from import. Safety compliance updates also left early models out of alignment with newer standards. Of course, it had drawbacks: modest power, simple interiors, and engines that demanded regular tuning. But its charm wasn't in raw numbers. Today, the first-gen Prelude stands as a quiet pioneer, a stylish little coupe that delivered more finesse than anyone expected, only to slip into restricted status as regulations evolved around it. Drop a comment with the sleeper you'd bet your money on in a street run, and while you're at it, subscribe so you don't miss the next outlaw hiding in JDM history. Mazda RX-8, 2003 to 2012. The RX-8 was Mazda's brave attempt to keep the rotary dream alive. It followed the legendary RX-7, and expectations were sky high. Unfortunately, reality didn't cooperate. On paper, it sounded perfect, a lightweight four-door sports coupe with a 1.3-liter rotary engine revving to 9,000 RPM. It handled beautifully, looked unique, and had those iconic rear-hinged doors. But the magic ended when it came time to live with one. The rotary engine was smooth, yes, but it was also fragile. It burned oil, flooded easily, and required constant attention. Many owners didn't know how to care for it properly, and engines started dying young. Add strict emission standards, and Mazda's dream engine became a liability. By 2012, the RX-8 was discontinued, not because people didn't love how it drove, but because it couldn't pass new regulations. It was the last rotary-powered production car in the world, and its death felt like losing a piece of history. Still, the RX-8 deserves credit. It proved Mazda's dedication to doing things differently, even when it didn't make business sense. It wasn't perfect, but it had soul, and that's something no EV can replace. Toyota Celica 2000 GT. The Toyota Celica 2000 GT didn't shout for attention. Sleek, tidy, almost elegant. It looked more like a stylish weekend cruiser than a machine capable of surprising bigger competitors on tight roads. But beneath that calm exterior was a sharper personality. Inside its lightweight frame sat a serious engine. Its 2-liter inline-4 produced around 140 horsepower and 130 pound-feet of torque. It reached 0 to 60 miles per hour in roughly 9.8 seconds, and top speed was around 118 miles per hour. For the early 70s, this turned the Celica into a quietly potent coupe. Sharp steering, a balanced chassis, and rear-wheel drive made it feel naturally confident in corners. It wasn't built to show off, it was built to handle, to carve, to stay composed even when pushed hard. But global emissions rules tightened quickly in the mid-70s. The high-compression, twin-carb setup struggled to comply, and several markets restricted or blocked imports of the 2000 GT entirely. It had its flaws: fuel consumption, rust issues, and tuning that needed attention, but none of that overshadowed its true identity. Today, the Celica 2000 GT is remembered as a clean-looking coupe with unexpected bite, a sleeper that quietly slipped into illegal territory as regulations changed around it. Nissan GTR R34 Skyline, 1999 to 2002. The Nissan GTR R34 wasn't just a car, it was a legend written in steel and boost. When it landed in 1999, it felt decades ahead. A twin-turbo inline-six, a Tessa ETS all-wheel drive, and Super Hikus four-wheel steering made it not just quick, but surgical. Nicknamed Godzilla for how it crushed rivals, it hit 60 in about 4.9 seconds. But the real magic was control. On track or in rain, it felt unshakable, almost supernatural for its era. Then the plug was pulled. Emissions tightened, the yen strengthened, and Nissan's finances cratered. The R34 was costly to build and sell, and the market for hardcore coupes was shrinking fast. Production ended in 2002, a gut punch to enthusiasts. The Skyline name lived on, but the R35 that followed was a different beast. More supercar, less street legend, missing that raw analog heart. The R34 didn't die because it failed. It died because it was too good, too advanced, too expensive to evolve, too pure for a profit-driven world. Today, it's among the most collectible JDM icons, prices soaring as the last chapter of an era and the end of innocence in performance design. But if you think Nissan was the only one forced to bury a legend, wait until you see what Toyota did to one of its greatest creations. 4. 1995 Nissan Stagea RS4. It looked like a Volvo, or maybe a hearse. Definitely something built to move cargo, not carve corners. But the 1995 Nissan Stagea RS4 WC34 wasn't just any long-roof wagon. It was Skyline DNA in full disguise. Under its long, boxy frame sat the RB25DET, a 2.5-liter turbocharged inline-six pulled straight from the R33 Skyline. It made 250 horsepower and over 220 pound-feet of torque, mated to either a 5-speed manual or a smooth automatic. And because Nissan doesn't do things halfway, they also gave it a Tessa ETS all-wheel drive, the very same torque-splitting system found in the GTR. So what does that mean? It means this quiet-looking wagon could hit 0 to 60 in just over 6 seconds, grip like a rally car, and cruise like a luxury sedan, all while looking like something your uncle imported for tax reasons. The best part? There were no wide arches, no aggressive bumpers, and no obnoxious badges. Just a flat-faced, stealth gray wagon that blended into commuter traffic, right until it left you in the dust. The RS4 didn't need attention. It had power, balance, and true Godzilla blood running through its veins. Inside, it was all business. Clean dash, big trunk, lots of headroom. A practical daily with the heart of a street legend. And unless you caught a glimpse of the turbo badge or heard that RB spool, you'd never know what just outran you. This is the sleeper wagon done right. No noise, no nonsense, all performance. And if you're into discovering forgotten beasts like this, cars hiding real power behind boring faces, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We've got more hidden monsters on the way. 3. 2002 Toyota Caldina GT4. At first glance, it looked like just another Toyota wagon from the early 2000s. Practical, safe, maybe even a little boring. But the 2002 Toyota Caldina GT4 ST246W was anything but average. Beneath its vanilla exterior hid a rally-bred heart, making it one of the most unassuming performance wagons ever to come out of Japan. Under the hood was the legendary 3S GTE, a 2-liter turbocharged inline-4 borrowed from the Celica GT4 and MR2 Turbo. It made a conservative 260 horsepower and was paired with Toyota's full-time all-wheel drive system, giving the Caldina astonishing grip and straight-line speed. speed. 0 to 60? Around 5.5 seconds, in a car that looked like it was built to carry camping gear and strollers. The Caldina GT4 didn't shout about its speed. No flared arches, no over-the-top styling cues, just clean lines, a discreet body kit, and a slightly more aggressive stance than its slower siblings. Even the rear wing looked more commuter-friendly than competition-ready. Most people wouldn't give it a second look, and that's exactly what made it dangerous. Step inside, and you'd find sporty bucket seats, a simple, driver-focused cockpit, and just enough tech to remind you it was built for more than hauling groceries. It had all the subtle marks of something special, but only if you knew where to look. This was Toyota quietly flexing its engineering, building a sleeper that could keep up with Evos and Imprezas, all while flying completely under the radar. Would you take this over a WRX wagon, or stick with the Subaru badge? Drop a comment and let me know. Suzuki Fronte Coupe LC10W. Small, quirky, and almost toy-like, the Suzuki Fronte Coupe LC10W looked more like a cheerful city runabout than anything capable of stirring excitement. Yet this tiny machine hid an attitude far bigger than its size suggested, especially when you heard what was sitting behind the rear seats. Suzuki equipped the Fronte Coupe with a high-revving two-stroke engine that loved to scream. Its 0.36-liter two-stroke inline-3 produced around 37 horsepower and 31 pound-feet of torque. It reached 0 to 60 miles per hour in roughly 17 seconds, and top speed was around 78 miles per hour. On paper, nothing impressive, but this was a featherweight K-car built to dance, not drag race. With the engine mounted in the rear, an ultralight body, and sharp, responsive handling, the LC10W felt surprisingly alive on tight roads. Drivers praised its playful nature, the way it darted through corners, and the unique soundtrack of its high-revving two-stroke engine. It became a cult favorite for enthusiasts who appreciated momentum driving long before it was trendy. But two-stroke emissions became a global target in the late 70s. As regulations tightened, many countries banned or restricted imports of Fronte models outright due to smoke output and outdated emissions equipment. Safety standards were also a hurdle, leaving the LC10W non-compliant in multiple regions. Yes, it had limitations: minimal power, basic comfort, and a temperamental engine, but none of that erased its charm. Today, the Suzuki Fronte Coupe LC10W stands as one of Japan's most charismatic K-sleepers. Tiny, loud, unconventional, and now restricted in many parts of the world because it simply belonged to a different era. Honda S2000, 1999 to 2009. The Honda S2000 was everything enthusiasts dreamed of: lightweight, rear-wheel drive, and powered by a glorious 2.0-liter that screamed to 9,000 RPM and made 240 horsepower without a turbo. Launched in 1999 for Honda's 50th anniversary, it felt like a love letter to pure driving. Razor-sharp balance, a buttery 6-speed, and responses so immediate it felt telepathic. It wasn't just fast, it felt alive at any speed. But the world shifted. Buyers gravitated to turbo torque and tech-heavy performance, and the S2000's old-school recipe, high revs, little torque, no frills, started to feel demanding. It rewarded skill and punished sloppy inputs, which didn't help as tastes changed. Then, the late 2000s downturn hit. Honda cut costs, leaned into hybrids and practicality, and in 2009, the S2000 ended quietly. No replacement, just silence. For fans, it marked the end of something rare. Honda's last truly raw sports car, a time capsule of feel over figures. Its legend has only grown, prices rising, builds thriving, and that F20C still sending chills. It wasn't killed by failure, but by changing times. A driver's car, in a world drifting from drivers. Next up, a car that carried Mazda's soul until emissions and economy strangled it out of existence. 3. Nissan Pulsar NX EXA. This car experimented with an idea the industry wasn't ready for. At first glance, the Nissan Pulsar NX looked like a normal compact coupe, designed to blend in rather than stand out. Its clean lines and simple shape gave nothing away. But beneath that ordinary exterior was one of the most unusual production concepts ever attempted. The Pulsar NX featured interchangeable rear body panels, allowing owners to convert the car between different body styles at home: coupe, hatch, or open style. The idea was brilliant, but far too confusing for mainstream buyers. Dealers didn't know how to sell it, and customers didn't know how to understand it. Engine options included 1.8-liter inline fours, with performance trims producing up to 140 horsepower and around 120 pound-feet of torque. Power was sent to the front wheels, delivering quick, nimble performance rather than brute force. On the road, the NX felt light and responsive, rewarding smooth inputs and spirited driving. The problem was never how it drove, it was how ahead of its time it was. The Pulsar NX could reach 0 to 60 miles per hour in around 8 seconds, with a top speed near 125 miles per hour. What erased it wasn't failure, it was innovation arriving too early. 1996 Mazda Capella Wagon V6 4WS. You probably wouldn't expect much from a 90s Mazda wagon with beige paint and plastic wheel covers, but the 1996 Mazda Capella Wagon V6 4WS wasn't built to impress anyone at first glance, and that's exactly what made it a sleeper in the truest sense. It came with the KFZE, a silky smooth 2-liter DOHC V6 pushing out around 160 horsepower. That may not sound wild, but paired with a lightweight chassis and an unexpectedly sharp suspension setup, the Capella V6 moved with surprising urgency. But the real party trick? 4-wheel steering. That's right, Mazda equipped this family hauler with 4WS, a system that adjusted the rear wheels to enhance agility at low speeds and stability at high speeds. The result was handling that felt far more precise and responsive than anything in its class had any right to be. On the outside, there was nothing to hint at this capability. The Capella wore the face of a commuter car. Simple grille, soft edges, no scoops or flares. Even the V6 badge was discreet, buried beneath layers of 90s minimalism. It looked like the kind of wagon you'd see in a faded family photo parked in front of a prefab house. But behind the wheel, it could dance through corners and zip through traffic with an elegance and speed that left far flashier cars scratching their heads. Inside, it was pure Mazda logic, driver-focused ergonomics, clean instrumentation, and just enough features to keep things civilized. But more importantly, the low center of gravity and near-perfect weight distribution made it feel more like a well-tuned hatchback than a long-roof family car. In a world obsessed with raw power, the Capella V6 4WS proved that balance, precision, and stealth can be just as thrilling. And the final car on this list? It looks like a station wagon, because it is, but it was secretly built by the same people who made the Skyline GTR, Toyota Chaser / Mark II JZX100. The Toyota Chaser was Japan's ultimate undercover sports sedan, a family car that could destroy sports cars without breaking a sweat. It had everything a sleeper lover could ask for: rear-wheel drive, turbo power, and subtle looks. Powered by the legendary 1JZ GTE engine, the smaller brother of the Supra's 2JZ, it made around 280 horsepower stock, but tuners knew it could handle way more. Some modified versions easily pushed 600 horsepower, all while looking like your uncle's company car. That was the magic of the Chaser. It didn't scream performance. No flashy spoilers, no loud graphics, just clean lines and quiet confidence. It was the perfect blend of business and boost. So why did Toyota kill it? Changing market demands and stricter emissions laws. By the early 2000s, buyers wanted safer, cleaner, more efficient sedans, not turbocharged drift machines. Toyota replaced it with the bland Mark X, and the JZX era quietly ended. Today, the Chaser has a massive cult following, especially among drifters and tuners. It's rare, desirable, and still one of the coolest sleeper cars ever built. Its death marked the end of an era when even four doors could have attitude. Subaru Leone 1400 RX. At first glance, it looked like a simple 1970s family box. Square, sensible, and almost too polite to make noise. The kind of coupe you'd expect to see delivering groceries, not hunting down rally stages. But the Subaru Leone 1400 RX hid something rare for its era: early Japanese all-wheel drive. Its 1.4-liter flat 4 produced around 80 horsepower and 76 pound-feet of torque, giving it far more grip than its rivals ever expected. It reached 0 to 60 miles per hour in about 13 seconds, and top speed hovered around 93 miles per hour. As Subaru pushed it into rough terrain rallies, its traction advantage quickly became obvious. That success success, combined with tightening emissions rules and new safety regulations of the 1970s, led many markets to restrict or block RX imports altogether. Today, the 1400 RX is rare and, in many regions, illegal to import without major compliance work. But for those who know its story, it remains a forgotten pioneer, the humble Subaru that quietly shaped the future of AW drive performance. Toyota Corolla 2000 GT RT104. It looked like a sensible 1970s family sedan, plain, upright, and almost too polite to ever be called fast. The kind of car you'd expect to blend quietly into traffic. But the Toyota Corolla 2000 GT hit a surprisingly lively heart, a 2-liter inline-4 producing about 140 horsepower and 130 pound-feet of torque. It reached 0 to 60 miles per hour in roughly 10.5 seconds, and top speed was around 115 miles per hour. Not supercar numbers, but paired with a lighter chassis, dual carburetors, and rear-wheel drive, it gave the Corolla a sharpness no one expected. Drivers called it a gentleman's sleeper, calm on the outside, eager underneath. As emissions rules tightened in the late 1970s, the 2000 GT's carbureted setup failed to meet new standards in several regions. Import restrictions, safety updates, and certification hurdles soon followed, quietly pushing this model off many markets-approved lists. It had its flaws: thirsty fuel use, stiff ride, and tuning that needed regular attention, but it still delivered a refined balance of comfort and spirited driving. Today, the Corolla 2000 GT remains a forgotten sleeper, a clean, conservative sedan that carried more attitude than its looks ever admitted. Nissan Silvia S15, 1999 to 2002. The Nissan Silvia S15 was the final chapter in a beloved lineage. Light, rear-wheel drive, perfectly balanced, and powered by the SR20 DET Turbo 4. It wasn't just quick, it was a tuner's dream. The quoted 250 horsepower was merely the beginning. A few bolt-ons and a bigger turbo, and it could punch far above its weight. It looked the part too. Sleek lines, low stance, unmistakably JDM. On street or track, it felt alive, agile, predictable, endlessly rewarding. Then the early 2000s hit. Sports cars were dying. Buyers wanted crossovers. Regulations tightened, and Nissan needed mass-market hits. In 2002, the Silvia was axed, never officially sold in the US, and replaced by nothing, just silence. The formula was right: lightweight, rear drive, affordable fun, but the timing wasn't. Today, the S15 is a drifting icon and a unicorn in clean, unmodified form, with prices climbing as survivors dwindle. It wasn't merely a model, it was a statement, proof that simplicity and balance brute force. When it ended, it felt like more than a discontinuation. It felt like a movement cut short. And speaking of lost legends, the next one wasn't just a car, it was a supercar killer that met a fate no one saw coming. Mitsubishi FTO, 1994 to 2000. The Mitsubishi FTO was a compact sports coupe that deserved far more attention than it ever got. It looked sharp, handled beautifully, and even won Japan's Car of the Year in 1994. But outside Japan, few people noticed. Under the hood sat a 2-liter V6, rare for such a small car, and in its top GPX trim, it revved to nearly 8,000 RPM. Paired with Mitsubishi's clever Invex 2 automatic gearbox, or a manual option, it was quick, agile, and perfectly balanced. But timing was cruel. The FTO arrived just as Mitsubishi's global strategy started collapsing. The Lancer Evolution stole all the spotlight, and the FTO never officially came to key markets like the US. When Japan's economy slowed, sales dropped, and Mitsubishi decided to pull the plug in 2000. It didn't die because it was bad. It died because it was forgotten. The FTO was a victim of bad marketing and worse timing. Today, it's a cult classic among enthusiasts who know what it really was: a front-wheel drive coupe that could dance through corners and make you smile every single time. It wasn't as famous as the Supra or RX-7, but it had heart, and that's why people still remember it. Mitsubishi Galant Lambda. The Mitsubishi Galant Lambda carried the look of a smooth, stylish Grand Tourer, wide stance, long doors, and that late 70s futuristic vibe. It looked more like a comfortable cruiser than anything built to surprise drivers. But underneath the sleek lines, Mitsubishi hid a powertrain that gave this coupe far more bite than most expected. In its higher spec trims, the Lambda came equipped with a solid performing engine for its class. Its 2-liter inline-4 produced around 120 horsepower and 120 pound-feet of torque. It reached 0 to 60 miles per hour in roughly 11 seconds, and top speed was around 112 miles per hour. Not headline numbers, but paired with rear-wheel drive and a smooth, balanced chassis, the Lambda had a quiet confidence that made it a surprisingly capable road car. The interior leaned toward luxury, and the styling combined sharp lines with a fastback profile that still turns heads today. Mitsubishi marketed it as a personal luxury coupe, but enthusiasts quickly learned it had enough performance to keep up with sportier rivals. The Lambda's handling was predictable and stable, making it a comfortable, long-distance driver that still had spirit when pushed. However, emissions tightening in the late 70s created trouble. The Lambda's carbureted engines struggled to meet new standards in multiple markets, and updated safety requirements made certain variants non-compliant. Over time, several trims became restricted or illegal to import without costly modifications. Sure, it wasn't perfect. Fuel economy was mediocre, weight wasn't on its side, and parts availability declined with age. But the Lambda delivered style and hidden capability in a way few expected. Today, it stands as a forgotten JDM coupe with unexpected skill, remembered not just for its looks, but for how quietly it slipped into restricted territory as regulations evolve. Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution, 1992 to 2016. The Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution wasn't just a car, it was a movement. Born on rally stages, it turned a humble sedan into a worlding weapon with racer soul, engineer brains, and street fighter attitude. From Evo 1 to Evo 10, the recipe sharpened. Turbo 2-liter power, advanced all-wheel drive, and knife-edge handling. By Evo 6, it was humiliating supercars on road and dirt, caring nothing for luxury, only results. Its tech was wizardry. Active yaw control and later super all-wheel control gave reflexes that still humble modern performance cars. It was a car to fight with, rewarding precision, punishing mistakes. But purity is expensive. 1. 1998 Nissan Stagea 260 RS Autech version. It looked like a family car, a long, brick-shaped wagon with no drama, no pretense, and nothing that screamed speed. But the 1998 Nissan Stagea 260 RS Autech version was the ultimate deception. A wagon built by Autech and Nismo with the soul of a Skyline GTR lurking beneath its skin. This wasn't just a tuned-up trim. The 260 RS was a hand-assembled super wagon, packing the legendary RB26 DETT 2.6-liter twin-turbo inline-6. Yes, the same engine from the R33 GTR. It made a factory-rated 280 horsepower, though most believe it was significantly underrated. Mated to a 5-speed manual and a Tessa ETS all-wheel drive, this wagon could rocket from 0 to 60 in around 5 seconds flat, blazing fast for any car in the 90s, let alone a wagon. Autech didn't stop at the powertrain. They reinforced the chassis, upgraded the suspension, added GTR brakes, and reworked the aerodynamics subtly but tastefully. And yet, despite all the GTR guts, the Stagea 260 RS retained its family wagon disguise. No oversized wings, no obnoxious decals. It was calm, quiet, serious. From the outside, most people saw a long roof commuter, maybe something to haul groceries or take the dog to the vet. But if you knew what those wide wheels, dual exhaust, and discreet badging meant, you also knew it could absolutely humiliate a 300ZX, Wagons, a Supra, or even a Porsche 911 of the same era. Inside, it was all business. Supportive bolstered seats, clean GTR-style gauges, and enough space to fit a mountain bike, a weekend's worth of luggage, or your ego after losing to it in a drag race. Emissions tightened, buyers drifted to SUVs, and accountants won. In 2016, production ended with the Evo 10 Final Edition, a quiet goodbye to a Japanese icon. Fans were gutted because the Evo was honest, raw, loud, unfiltered, living for corners and loving boost. It proved performance comes from passion, not prestige. While rivals softened, it stayed wild to the end. The Lancer evolution didn't fade away, it went out swinging. And with that, we close this list of JDM legends lost to time. Cars that defined an era, inspired generations, and reminded us that true performance comes from the heart.